to go back to something that you touched earlier on that I think is what I tried to create within the protocol and the message for people to really get is that macro variability and eating window variability, I think is like magic stuff. It's good for humans to realize that variability is a good idea. And the analogy that I use in the book is this sort of proverbial yoga class for your metabolism, is that we ebb and flow and vacillate from these spaces, whether that's changing macros up, shaking up our eating windows. When we shake things up, I find that it modulates the body in really cool ways. So that's what I'm trying to say through the book, and the message that I'm trying to get across is the state of balance.
Yeah, I love it. And I think that really comes through, and I really appreciate that. And like we said, we see that evolutionarily, we see that in hunter-gatherer cultures. And I think that it just makes so much sense that we don't need to worry about eating protein or meat as long as we give ourselves some time to just not do that occasionally, whether that's on a daily basis or a quarterly basis or whatever. That if there is this ebb and flow of these both sides, it's such a simple retort to the argument that you're going to overstimulate mTOR with meat. It's like, wait a minute, no, because I'm not eating for 16 hours a day. How am I overstimulating mTOR? Like, you can check my fasting IGF-1 in the morning and it's going to be low. Whereas, an extended eating window and always eating, we're just countering the standard American way of life.
Yeah. And I think what I've always appreciated with you is that you've showed your labs, you showed the data of where you're at, and no one can really argue with that. It's so easy for people to sit there on social media and pontificate and be like on their high horse, but it's like, okay, let's look at labs. And that's what I do on an hourly basis. That's what you do too. It's like the numbers aren't lying. And you look at the data really improving somebody's health. You just need to shut up if you really can't say much beyond my labs look great, I feel great. What are you against here?
Yeah, what are we worried about? What are we even talking about here? And to that point, I've been very fascinated recently by visceral fat. And in these kind of pseudo debates that I'm having with people, I had Joel Furman on the podcast last week, and then Stephen Gundry. I always kind of want to ask them, like, can you show me your visceral fat? Like, what's your IGF-1, right? Because I'm pretty convinced that a lot of these people in the plant-based space, or these vegans specifically, would have more visceral fat than I do. And yet why are we even talking about all of these? We can get all this argumentation about diet and this study and that study and observational studies, but it's like, let's just look at how healthy an individual is who's doing this type of diet. Again, it's just N of one versus N of one, but I think there's some validity to that.